Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 694th edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel Feuerstein. I'll give you American perspective of our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments. Get your daily reading from me and other writers over at Beyond the 90, at beyondthe90.substack.com, and locally on baddogsports.com on the New York soccer scene. Chat room on YouTube is open. Come on in, discuss amongst yourselves if you like. You have a question for me, I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. And so as we get ready to go into the playoffs, very interesting situation as we have. As we all know, the wild card games are going to be going on. I think they're going on right now. And, you know, when it comes to the MLS Cup playoffs, I mean, what do we expect for these playoffs this year? What do we expect? I'll tell you what we expect. We expect some hard-fought matches. We're expecting some big moments here, and especially tonight, which the Chicago Fire are going to be hosting Orlando City over at, surprisingly, SeatGeek Stadium, not at Soldier Field. So obviously they're getting kicked out because of I guess there's going to be a Thursday night football game coming up tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But once again, it's a situation where we need to see what this Fire team really has and what they're made of. Because obviously they've made the playoffs for the first time in a while. And now we're going to have to see what they're going to be able to do under Greg Berhalter. But once again, you know, this Eastern Conference, it's really a tight one, a very, very tight race as we get ready to go out there and watch what's going to happen. Because we have not only the situation with Miami, we have the situation, of course, with Nashville, Philadelphia, winning the Supporters' Shield, running the whole situation. And it's just one of those things where you just have to hope that we're going to get great action. This is why these are the times that come up big in MLS as we get ready for the playoffs. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be wonderful to watch. I know. Look, until we get to that mechanism, for now, this is what it has to be. But until we get there, this is what we have in front of us right now. So tonight, 2 games, Chicago hosting Orlando, while Portland is hosting Salt Lake. Just give me one moment, folks. I will be right back. Sorry about that, folks. Got that taken care of. 1, 2, 3. So as I was saying before with the playoffs, and once again, I don't know if you heard me introduce the show, because this is the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show, episode 694, as we talk about everything that's going on with American soccer. And once again, this is the schedule for the playoffs. For the wild card games tonight, Chicago hosting Orlando over at SeatGeek Stadium, 8:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. And later on tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, Portland Timbers hosting Real Salt Lake. And then we go into the weekend. Friday night will be Miami hosting Nashville in Game 1. And then on Sunday, I don't know why there are no games on Saturday. That's interesting. Sunday, Philadelphia will be waiting the Chicago-Orlando winner. Vancouver will be taking on FC Dallas. And then San Diego FC will be hosting the winner of the Portland Real Salt Lake wild card winner. Monday, Cincinnati will be taking on the Columbus Crew. And then Monday, Cincinnati, as we already said that, Minnesota will be taking on Seattle. And then Tuesday, Charlotte FC will be taking on New York City FC. Wednesday, October the 29th, LAFC will be taking on Austin FC. And that's the first round of the playoffs in the first game. So, like I said, it'll be exciting and fun to watch as we get ready for this. But once again, until the changes are made, that we don't have to have this anymore, we're stuck with where we are. But it's okay. As I've said many, many times, look, we must remain where we are until these changes do come. And until these changes do come, we just have to sit tight and see what happens. And that's all we can really do. We just have to be patient when and hopefully when these changes do happen. But once again, what are you going to do? Just got to move on, move forward, and just enjoy ourselves with this situation we call soccer. Now, something I want to talk about that I've written about over at Beyond the 90. And, as we look at what's going on in the United Soccer Leagues, of course, so many clubs coming into USL Championship. Of course, those USL Championship sides are going to make that move to the First Division League that they're going to create. They'll be ready to go after the World Cup. Also, an abundance of clubs coming into USL League One. And once again, we're having these clubs in the third division in the leagues like MLS Next Pro. Soon there'll be 7 independent clubs there. NISA still currently on their provisional sanctioning of Division 3. And I've always maintained that we need to add a 4th division now. I think it's inevitable that we must add a 4th division to our professional leagues. And that means if there are, that gives opportunity to other clubs who want to be in a professional level. And if we can somehow mesh these clubs back, together, I shouldn't say back, but together into one league below 3rd division, I think it would work wonders. Besides, we are now seeing the abundance of clubs coming into this country. Amateur teams that want to become professionals. These short season teams that want to become professionals. Whether it be in USL, NPSL, now the League for Clubs, they want to become a professional team on that level, not a short season league. By all means, I say go for it. But now we need to expand the pyramid the proper way. And as I've said, if USL wants to create this 4th division, that would be great. And we can name it properly. We can name it properly USL League 2. Because I believe if they're going to keep the short season leagues, they should rename it and bring back the original naming of that league, the Premier Development League, the PDL. I really believe they should bring it back. They should bring it back. Not so much it's an old school feeling, but in reality, that's what these short season leagues are. Under 23s. That's what we need to have. And so, if US Soccer can start understanding, we cannot have an overflow of clubs in our leagues below the 1st division. But at the same time, we have to stop expanding in MLS as well. I think we're already 10 clubs too much. But because everyone wants to come to MLS, of course, there's no pro rel. That's the situation we have in front of ourselves right now. I think it's time to expand the professional divisions and add a fourth. I don't think adding more teams is an answer. I think it dilutes the talent pool in the top flight, in the second division, and in the third division. But at the same time, aren't you sick and tired of all the soccer wars? Aren't you sick and tired of all the battles that keeps happening behind the scenes that, some of you do know, and even some of us don't know? But once it gets announced, it's just common. It's just common. When are we going to have a federation that is going to basically slam the gavel in the courtroom and tell all parties, get into the room over there, hammer out your ideas, make it work so that we can all come together and finally agree to certain things? Because the U.S. Soccer Federation is supposed to be the governing body and the official people, the official office for the game in this country and how it gets managed, how they must adhere to the bylaws and the laws of the game, not only internationally, but domestically. Stop making everything sound complicated and terrible. We need to have this show. You can hear that. Sounds like we've got a fire truck going across outside my window here. But as I'm saying, we need to have clarity and common sense. I personally believe that we need a fourth division. Now, when it happens, I don't know. Will it happen? That I don't know either. But I've always felt, since the news of USL creating and looking to bring in their own first division league, then that's a mistake. I understand why they're doing it. But once again, I truly believe that having a first division league in USL is really the wrong way to go. But look, they want to have it done. They want to challenge. They want to bring in promotion relegation. That's fine. But I really believe that we need a fourth division, not another first division. Because if we're going to continue to have 2 leagues or 3 leagues, even 4 leagues in the same professional division, it's a joke. We cannot have this. We cannot have it, and we must hopefully find a way to get this thing fixed the proper way. It's not about, it's a European idea, it's a South American idea. No, it's a common sense idea. And that's what I'm always looking for, common sense. And as we are continuing to look for that common sense, I'm hoping it does come. Now, once again, the hope is this. The hope is that when or if MLS does make that decision to change their competition calendar and be like the rest of the world, that's step number 1. But until then, we are where we are. It's okay. It will be better. It will be fine. But once we get to that special place, I think everything will start to make sense. and we're going to get to where we need to go. Great show for you tonight. Join me right now from 92.9 FM, The Game in Atlanta, Georgia. He is the radio analyst of Atlanta United, the one and only Jason Longshore, joining me tonight. Jay, welcome back. Two big moments happening for Atlanta United. First, we'll go with the sad part. Goalkeeper extraordinaire Brad Guzan has announced his retirement. He will no longer wear the 5 stripes on the pitch at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Talk about, since he returned from Europe to MLS and to Atlanta, what has Brad Guzan meant to the club?
He's been the club. He's been the best epitome of what you want an Atlanta United player to be. I think he's been the most important player that the club's ever had. And look, I know Joseph Martinez was here and scored a ton of goals. I understand that. But Brad Guzan did so many different things for this club, and he did it over a long period of time. He came back from an Achilles rupture. He had the playoff series of his life last year against Inter Miami, best in MLS history, in my opinion, in terms of a postseason performance over a handful of games. Just incredible. And he was a leader for this team. He was a leader in the locker room. He set the standard for what Atlanta United players needed to be. You know, I had a chance in his last week with the team to talk to 2 very different kinds of players. One, Jonathan Ransom, a new young goalkeeper who's been signed to a future homegrown deal. He's on a 2s deal right now. He's going to represent Canada at the U17 World Cup. And I had a chance to talk to Juan Beracall, a fairly new signing from the summer from Spain. And I asked both of them about Brad, and they both have obviously very different experiences. Juan said that Brad was, so important to him when he arrived, first time out of Spain in his career, just getting settled, just, feeling like he can fit into a locker room. Like having a senior leader like that is so important in getting guys going quicker. But then somebody like Jono, Jono's been with the club since he was 12, 13 years old. And he remembers one of the biggest moments in his life is being on a Zoom call as a young academy goalkeeper with the goalkeeper group from the academy on a Zoom call with Brad Guzan. And Brad says, I want one of you to take my shirt one day. Like stuff like that. Brad supported the unified team on a regular basis. He's been out in the community on a regular basis. The guy's done everything you would hope that a big signing would do for you. He's delivered on the field. He's delivered off the field, and he set the standard. A highly underrated player when it comes to U.S. soccer, U.S. goalkeepers, U.S. men's national team, MLS history. Brad is just one of the all-time greats.
He really is. And obviously, like you said, that Miami series last year in the first round was just unbelievable what he did against Lionel Messi and friends. That's all we can really say. Lionel Messi and friends.
Yeah, I think for Brad, you have a series like that, you definitely want to come back another year, even at 41, and go for it one more time. And this team was supposed to be better than they were, and they just weren't. And I don't think that was because of Brad's performances. But when you get to the stage that Atlanta United was in, you need to see what the next guy is going to be, and that's Jaden Hibbert, who's another good young goalkeeper that Brad Guzan has mentored and really helped along. So, Brad didn't get to play as much at the end as I'm sure he would have wanted to, and I'm sure what everybody thought would be the case when the year started. But just an amazing guy, an amazing leader, and I think a guy that hopefully will be affiliated with Atlanta United for the rest of his soccer life.
Exactly. I think he will. Outside of last season, of course, we can't forget starting goalkeeper in the MLS Cup final against Portland Timbers. Yeah. And then, of course, the Open Cup championship he won against Minnesota United. What stands alone on those 2 championship matches?
I think it's the MLS Cup final in 18. He didn't have a whole lot to do, but the one big play that he had to make, a save on a header from Jeremy Abobasi, probably 6 yards out, kept the game 1-0 going into halftime. Just critical. I think the other really underrated thing about Brad and what he had to do coming back to Atlanta, when he came in the door, Tata Martino was the manager and wanted to play out of the back, probably a good bit more than Brad was maybe accustomed to. And he had to work at it, and he put in the work. This was a guy who loved the training ground, loved working. When he came back from his Achilles rupture, he was way ahead of schedule, to the point that, they have to slow him down and say, dude, you're on the season-ending injury list. You're not coming back this year. There's no point. Slow down. Calm down. He's not an easy guy to get to calm down. Just a freak of an athlete. Juan Bettercall, first thing when I ask him about Brad, he's like, he's a beast. He's just a different kind of guy. But he showed up in big games for this club, whether it's MLS Cup final, the 3 games against Miami, where it felt like he got better and better and better in every single game. Just a clutch player, a great leader. It's going to be really different not having him on the training pitch, in matches, in the locker room next year.
No, I agree with you. And, what stature he has. I remember back in the early days, he started off at Chivas USA before
El
he left for Europe.
Guzano. Yeah.
El Guzana, that's right. And look, was a regular at the time for the national team until, later on, and didn't get called up again. But
one
still,
of those guys with the national team, like, when we look at goalkeepers for the U.S. men's national team, the Mount Rushmore, Tim Howard, Brad Friedel, Casey Keller, Tony Meola, like those 4 kind of epitomize different eras. Brad just happened to be at a time where Tim Howard was there. And it's, any other place in the world, with maybe 2 or 3 exceptions, not many, Brad would have gotten more caps than he did. It just so happened that Tim Howard is probably the best in terms of performance with the national team in all time. So you weren't going to displace him. When he got his opportunity, I think he got it at a very bad time, that Gold Cup in 2015, where, the team wasn't at its best. I think Klinsmann was kind of at the end of his run and influence. It felt like guys were kind of starting to tune that out, and he didn't get to stick in that spot. I do feel like it, and I said it many times in 17, 18, into 19, he deserved more caps at that time. I think his last run with the national team was Gold Cup in 21, if I'm not mistaken, and he was on the bench. He deserved more, but I don't think, when you look back at it, I think the main reason is just Tim Howard was that good. And Brad was right there, but Tim got the spot and never really gave it up.
Very true. Very true. So what did you make of his first run as an analyst on the Club World Cup broadcasts through DAZN and TNT Sports?
Well, it's funny. The game that he did as a color analyst was a game that I was at, so I didn't get to hear that one. Loved him in the studio, which isn't a surprise that he's going to kill it in something like that. He gets the game so well. I always loved it when he was available for media, because I felt like he could break things down and mention things in a way that, wasn't going over anybody's head, but was something unique in his perspective. I think he'd be a great head coach if he wanted to be. I don't think that's where he wants to go. That's a very difficult life, as we'll talk about here in a minute. You have to be ready to move on a moment's notice as a manager. It's worse than as a player, I think, in terms of not having stability. Brad's talked about potentially wanting to go into a general manager, sporting director kind of role. I think he'd be amazing at that. But he gets some time now to where he can kind of figure things out a little bit. He can do some TV. It would not shock me if he's part of World Cup coverage next year. It's a no-brainer, right, for Fox, I would think. He's going to be able to do whatever he wants with MLS and Apple TV. He's going to be on the game on Friday in the studio. So he's going to get to call his shot, but I can't wait to see what he does, because I really think as a manager, he would be incredible, but that is such a difficult life. I could see him going more into the front office side of things.
Look, some players, after they're done, they're ready to become a coach. Some don't want to do that again, or they don't want to be in that position. They'd rather be in the sporting director's position and, acquire the talent, whether it's through transfer windows or finding talent through scouting.
When you have the young kids too, that Brad does, and the family, now he gets a chance to be more of a dad right now. So I think as a manager and even as a sporting director, look, and Chris Henderson mentioned it when we were chatting about it on our pregame show on 92.9 on Saturday. When you're a player, you come in early and you put your work in and you're training, and then you're home 2 or 3 o'clock. It's very hard physically, don't get me wrong, but you're home. You're a sporting director, you're general manager, you're in the office as long as you need to be in the office. If you're a coach, you're in the office even longer. Like, it's tough. Those are tough lives. I could see him in a World Cup year, go kill it with TV, get that opportunity, see what you love about it. If you're on games, if you're in studio, he's going to be able to call his shot for a while. But I think he's going to end up just getting to know him a little bit here over the years. I think he's going to end up really wanting to be around a team on a regular basis again.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens there. Do you expect Atlanta United to build a statue outside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Obviously, there'll be a section for the Falcons.
Yeah.
But where's the section for Atlanta United?
Well, we don't have any player statues for either outside the stadium right now. We have a giant falcon on the outside. We have a giant kind of soccer ball figure as well. So both are represented there. Arthur Blank's really intentional about making sure that everything is for both clubs, both franchises. The Falcon gets a giant soccer scarf on a soccer match days. I would not be surprised if you start to see something. There used to be, and this was a Georgia Dome thing, there was a more of a fixed Ring of Honor. Now with all of the LED kind of lights you have, it doesn't have to be as fixed. And with the Ben's hosting so many different venues or so many different events, you could do different things with it. I think you're at a point now with Atlanta United going into season 10 next year with the Falcons, starting in 66. I think you can create a Falcons Ring of Honor a Ring of Honor-esque thing like the Falcons have for Atlanta United. I don't think you're going to get into the jersey retiring kind of thing. It's not really what we do in soccer all that often. It does happen from time to time. But I could see some kind of a Ring of Honor kind of deal, and Brad should be the first one in it.
He really should. I mean, what great years he's had with the club. Obviously, some great moments. Such great positioning and goal, and always found a way to stop those tremendous shots that keeps coming at him. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully it'll be a good one. And now we go from sadness to, I would say, I wouldn't say shock, but it felt like it was coming, I guess you might say. Ronny Deila is now sacked as head coach of Atlanta United. What went wrong for him this entire season?
I think player performances let him down. I really do. It's sad for me that Ronny didn't get the results that he needed to stay in the job. Out of all the managers we've had at Atlanta United, I feel like Ronny was the most truly open with me, just me personally. I had a chance to talk to him before every game, sometimes 15, 20, 30 minutes at times, just talking about where the team was, talking about what he wanted to do, how he saw things, how he saw opponents. We would get deep into the weeds, and he was completely open with me in that. And I know he wasn't with everybody. So I really, that meant a lot that he did that, and was just, I think, so respectful of what the work that I do, and understanding that those conversations help me translate what he wants to do to the audience. And that's the biggest thing. And the role that I have in, a market like Atlanta, I think a radio station like 92.9, where, we are the leading sports station in the Southeast. We have a ton of Falcons listeners who then come over for Atlanta United games. We have a ton of Hawks listeners who come over for Atlanta United games, and they get swept up by the passion. I get to try to explain it and have it make sense. And I always tell the coach when we start building that relationship, I'm essentially your translator to the fan base. I try to be. I want people to understand not just what's happening, but why he's trying to get certain things to happen. And I feel like this season, getting to know him the way that I did and watching so many training sessions and seeing how the team was built, what he wanted to accomplish, what changes he tried to make to accomplish it, I think he tried everything. I really don't think there was a stone left unturned. I feel like when you look at a team that underperformed its XG by about 15 goals and underperformed the goals allowed, they were 9th in XG allowed in the league, and they were 26th in goals allowed. When you're underperforming those advanced metrics, and I always take them with a grain of salt game to game, but over 34 games, that paints a pretty big picture of chances are being created. Expected assists were very high. You're getting into shooting opportunities. You're getting into goal scoring opportunities, and you're not putting the ball in the back of the net. And then the flip side, you're not giving up great opportunities, and goals are happening. You combine all of that along with the usual injuries. I mean, maybe he had a little bit worse luck with that, especially in certain position groups, but you combine all that and you win 5 games in the regular season and you win 6 in all competitions. And this is a league where that's not going to be good enough to get a second year.
That's true. And even some of the starts that they've had this past season, I've never seen so many self-inflicting wounds I've seen from Atlanta United at all since they came into the league.
And that's what's so frustrating is like, that's not a coaching thing. And you know, I know the narrative that everybody threw out there immediately after the announcement on Sunday morning was his tactics. Again, like, if you're supposed to score 15 more goals than you do, that's not tactics. I'm sorry. The self-inflicted mistakes and bad goals to give up, that's not tactics. That's individual. And I think when you look at this, and Ronny talked about it a lot, and he echoed things that Rob Valentino and Gonzalo Pineda said, and all three really different kinds of managers. I think different game model, different personality, like all of them had certain things in common, but they all see the game differently. And I think they want their team to look differently. All of them talked about how this team too often was soft. That's the way that Ronny put it. He also said they were too nice at times. Gonzalo said that specifically. Rob said those things in various ways. And I think some of that shows up in those moments where a mistake happens and you don't get the proper response to go try to fix it. That's the issue. Mistakes are going to happen, and if mistakes keep happening, then players end up moving on. And we saw some of that in the summer, frankly. And this team performed better after that, but never got the goals they needed. Latte Lot never got going this season. Miguel Almiron is not the same player that he was. I think they found effective ways to use him as the year went on, but he wasn't showing up on the score sheet as often as he needs to for this team to be successful. Saba Lobjanidze did not have a good season in terms of scoring goals. He created a number of chances. Alexei Miranchuk was pretty good, but that's one guy. You needed more in the attacking third. You needed more in the attacking half, and you didn't get it. And in the mistakes on the defensive side, that's what ended up crushing you.
Yeah, very true. And I was going to say, you know, especially on the road at the Red Bulls, I'll never forget Almiron, blind pass to nobody.
Yeah.
And Cameron Harper just picks up the ball and just beats Brad like there's no tomorrow.
Lots of those kinds of things all year long.
Yeah, just self-inflicted wounds, and just you're just left scratching your head of what the heck's going on here. Just couldn't believe I saw that especially from Almiron, who was such a great talent for either South America and Panama. I mean, Paraguay. Apologies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something that Ronny said to our broadcast colleague, Madison Cruz, after the match on Saturday, he never felt like, I think the bond that he wanted to create with his coaching staff, with himself, and with the players, it never got to where he wanted it to get. And that's ultimately on him. And if that's the reason that you make the change, so be it. I understand that. I think the fact that, you know, you haven't seen a lot of players say anything about it. And look, maybe they're being told not to. I don't know. I don't know if it was as warm of a feeling between the coaching staff and between Ronnie and the players as you want. You didn't ever quite get there. Sometimes we see that with European coaches. It's a very different mentality, look, than a lot of American coaches, a lot of South American coaches, where it's, we're going to go to war together. European coaches, it can be a little different, and sometimes it doesn't always click. I think Ronny Deila is a very good manager. He's won league titles in 3 different countries. We saw it with NYC. The guy knows what he's doing. He's going to be fine in whatever he ends up doing. I wish the best for him, again, because he was always so good to me. But the way the year went, and probably the way that the last 2 months went, maybe after Leagues Cup, where your only win was a good performance in Nashville, a very good performance and a good win. But that was it. Every other good performance had a mistake somewhere in it that cost you a result. And at times, like the Columbus game, you had a whole bunch of mistakes that nearly cost you an unbelievably embarrassing loss that you did fight back in and did get it to 5-4. You can't give up 5 goals, and you can't give up the mistakes that you did to give up those goals. And ultimately, as we see pretty much every time this happens, when the performances aren't good enough and when too many mistakes end up costing you too many results, it's the manager who ends up paying the price for it.
It really does, and it's unfortunate. So obviously, Atlanta United officially in their off-season mode. The league's still going on the playoffs right now, starting tonight. What do you expect from the hard work Atlanta United needs to do to try to get back into the upper echelons of the Eastern Conference?
Well, it's going to be interesting as well. News came out yesterday that Garth Lagerwey is taking another indefinite leave of absence to focus on his health and his recovery from cancer treatments. He had come back and he was in the office. He was around. I had a chance to chat with him a little bit, but on kind of a part-time basis, as he was just easing back into anything work related. In his statement, he talked about how, it's a full-time job right now, and he's not capable of that right now. So you've got Chris Henderson as the chief soccer officer. You've got Dimitrios Efstathiou, who had been in the league office previously. He's your SVP of strategy. Skate Offsinger on the business side. Those 3 are involved in running everything, and they're reporting to AMBSE CEO Rich McKay. Rich McKay, longtime NFL guy, probably knows the sports business as well as anybody in the United States. He's Arthur Blank's probably most trusted person in that office to manage the business and the sports business, because there are unique things about it that do cross over sports. Rich McKay's not picking a coach. Rich McKay has been through coaching searches, though, and he can help support and help Chris Henderson, who, when you look at it, hasn't been involved in a whole lot of coaching searches. When you go through Chris's career in the league and player, then assistant coach with Sporting Kansas City or Kansas City Wizards at the time, then Seattle, then Miami, he's had, as in a front office role, he has had Siggy Schmid, Brian Schmetzer. He was announced the same day in Miami as Phil Neville was, and Tata Martino, and Ronny Deila now. And he came in right before Ronny Deila was hired. So you can't imagine that was all him. That's a lot of years with 5 coaches, so Rich McKay ends up becoming a very valuable asset in terms of logistical support and just, hey, things to watch for. Hey, I've been through this. Hey, try to find this out in interviews. Like talk about these things. Sport across the board, not soccer specific. So it's not a great situation, because you'd love to have Garth Lagerwey with his experience in that mix. And now this really truly becomes Chris Henderson's team, in my opinion. I think we saw that in the summer with going out and getting an Mikhai, the Albanian international, getting Juan Bettercall on loan from Getafe, getting Steven Alzate over from England. He's got caps with the Colombian national team. 3 good additions. Now what comes next? Because it's not just hiring a coach and probably staff. It's going out and upgrading this roster. You've got some decisions on options to pick up or decline. That's definitely going to be part of this mix. But that side of the roster that has the options, it's more of the back end of the starting lineup. So players, 10 to 15, and then some of the younger guys. It's not your front end guys. So are you going to have to make moves that are bigger and tougher to pull off? Are you going to have to find transfers? You're going to have to think about buyouts. You're going to have to look at trades, all that sort of stuff to really overhaul this roster and make it better. Because ultimately, over these past 2 years, and last year, the playoff run was amazing. It's some of the most fun I've had with this club. You got in on decision day. You were the last team in. Both years, 24 and 25, the expectation was that the team would be contending for trophies. And they didn't, ultimately. They got worse this year after a not so great regular season last year. So that tells me that your roster isn't good enough to do that. And I think you're going to have to find some ways to upgrade it. So Chris has got, his work cut out for him. He's got a lot to do. I'm very curious to see how all of the next steps unfold, because I think you probably need 3 to 4 starters, depending on a few guys that you can bring back and can start. Goalkeeper is going to be one. Is it Jaden Hibbert's job? Or are you going to go get a veteran? Right back, Ronald Hernandez ended up taking that. He's in an option year. Is he going to stay? Brooks Lennon was injured at the end. He's in an option year. Is he going to stay? Pedro Amador is under contract. I thought he really struggled at left back this season. And you got to find a way to get goals out of the front end. You have to. You've paid for them. You've expected them. They're not there. You got to figure that out.
Yeah. A lot going on over there in Atlanta, that's for sure, Jay.
We're going to be busy all off season. I can tell you that much.
I bet it will be. How's Mike doing? Mike Conte, your play-by-play partner. How's he been, and what's going on with you and him for the radio calls?
He's doing great. We are figuring out what we're doing between now and the World Cup draw on 92.9. We're going to have a lot of coverage over the air of everything soccer-wise now through the World Cup next year. We got 8 games coming to Atlanta. Our Atlanta Soccer Tonight show, which I do on Tuesday nights, that's going to become a daily show starting June 1st and run through the Monday after the finals. So I'll have about 50 shows to do over the summer next year. That's going to be amazing. No, it's great. And I'm really lucky because Mike's the program manager at the station. So, or the brand manager, program director, similar titles. He obviously gets it. And we are really killing it right now across the board on ratings and soccer, and the coverage that we provide is part of that. And we found really good ways to complement what the station does well and introduce soccer to new folks. And that's something that, I think you and I have talked about before. I feel like at times in the American soccer space, we focus on talking so much to the people that are already sitting with us, and it becomes a little of a silo. Whereas with our station, I see it firsthand. You have a lot of brand new people to soccer who listen to our matches and then listen to Atlanta Soccer Tonight. And we try to provide commentary on the games, coverage pre and post, and then all the ancillary programming to where we're not dumbing it down for anybody, but we're trying to elevate the conversation and bring everybody to the party. We want to grow this, and that's the key. And I think putting the amount of hours that Mike has committed on the radio station to soccer and giving me a platform to do a lot of that, him a platform, mentioned Madison Cruz, John Nelson from Soccer Down Here. He's been on pre and post games all year long as well. Getting more voices on talking soccer is only going to help grow the game. And it's a huge year for soccer in Atlanta next year. It's a huge year for soccer in the country, but in Atlanta specifically, I can't wait to help tell that story.
Oh, I know. And I love telling those stories too. I mean, I've always done my best with this show, not just, giving the spotlight to the sport in our country, but to give those that are not familiar with it or have never bothered with it, wants to get involved. And I'm like you, Jay. I want to be a storyteller as well, and put my arm around the guy, put them around, my arm around their shoulders like a friend and say, hey, look, this is what you got to do, man. This is what you have to do. So we're all in the same boat here.
Yep. Trying to grow it. It's a huge year for all of us. And hopefully Atlanta United has a good year on the field next year with all this work that the front office has to do here in the offseason.
Exactly. There's plenty of work that needs to be done before the new season starts. And before I let you go, obviously, everyone's heard the rumors after the World Cup, MLS might change their competition calendar to a more traditional European calendar, following the international calendar of FIFA. I mean, yay or nay on your end of it?
It's funny. I was always nay for the longest time until probably the last couple of years, where the way that I've heard it explained and having conversations with guys like Chris Henderson and Garth Lagerwey has kind of helped see the picture that I think they're seeing of where it needs to go. Your calendar actually doesn't change that much if you do it correctly. If you start your season, I think it'll be 27 at the earliest until it starts. It should have been after the World Cup. I think that's a missed opportunity. MLS should have done a short season tournament first half of next year and then started the new format after the World Cup. It's not what enough teams wanted to do, so it is what it is. You figure that out. But I think you'll essentially get into a situation where you start in mid-August with opening weekend. You go one more week than MLS Cup right now, so maybe mid-December. You can schedule intelligently in who's playing the second week of December at home. You can have Miami, Orlando, Houston, Dallas, both LAs, San Diego. You can make that happen. It's a lot easier to make that happen in the middle of your season than it is in your playoffs, where we've seen miserable MLS Cup finals before. You're not going to have that anymore. So you go to the second week of December, and then you take a winter break, a la Germany, and you come back the weekend after the Super Bowl, 1 week ahead of where you are right now. So you're adding a week on what current is the back end, and you're adding a week on the front end, and you're taking a break in the rest of it, which you would already take anyway. You come back again, you can schedule intelligently because we're talking about games 16, 17, 18, 19 in the middle of your calendar. And then you're going to run to probably the end of May or the beginning of May with your regular season. And then you're going to have your playoffs in May. And it just makes more sense. I'd rather lose the games in July and early August in Houston that are miserable, as miserable or maybe more than the colder temperatures in certain parts of the league. I think you can make it work. And I think I just don't understand the argument that this is going to kill the cold weather teams. If the Chicago Fire get out of the wild card round and get to MLS Cup, they're not going to decline the right to host MLS Cup. They're not. They're going to play it. And okay. So now what you do is, instead of having your biggest game of your franchise, your club's recent history in awful weather, like we saw in Toronto in 2016, like we've seen in other games, now it's going to be game 16 or 17 of the regular season, and you can just be scheduled to play on the road that weekend. It's not that difficult. And as we're starting to see, the way that the climate is changing in the United States and Canada might not be as cold as it's been in the past. So I think it makes so much sense. You have more control over your venues now than you did before, so you can do the scheduling the way that you want. And when we talk about the business of the game and, Atlanta United and transfers and the business that they do selling and buying, you're going to be better aligned to do that better. So I think you end up making more money in the long run this way, which allows you to go get better players. And yeah, it's going to help offset. All right, if Chicago has to play, instead of playing a game on October 22nd as maybe their last game at home, if they get out of this, they'll have a game in the first round. Okay, so early November, let's say. if that's your last home game in a playoff situation, if you have to play in mid-November or maybe even around Thanksgiving at home, and your attendance is down a little bit from that, if you do the business the way that this should allow you to do, sell players, buy players, develop players, and have a better valuation of them because you're going to be selling them more in what used to be your midseason where you were reluctant to do it. Now you're going to be able to do that in your offseason. You're going to end up making more money to offset a couple thousand people saying, you know what, it's a little cold, I'm going to stay at home tonight. It's going to be okay. I really think it is the way to go. And I did not think that up until the last year, 2 years.
Yep, exactly. We'll see what happens. Ready for two amateur clubs in Georgia going for the third round of the Open Cup. I think it's Kalanji Pro Profile and Atletico Buford.
Yeah, Atletico Buford and Potros is one of the games. Potros is a club I've gotten to know a little bit over the years. Atletico Buford, managed by a long-time local Latino league legend, Rafael Salerno. We've, in the past, when we had Open Cup runs in USASA and NPSL teams with Atlanta FC and Liga Lawrenceville's team that played in it in the past, Salerno was either an assistant or an advisor or was involved. Like he's been around for so long, and I'm excited for what's going on with Atletico Buford. They're really new, so they're still getting a sense of what they're going to end up being. Potros has been one of the top teams in the UPSL in the region as of late. So excited to see them. Kalanji Pro Profile, you've got a good number of former pros in that mix, like Karim Tamimi. Tony Tiente has been with them, guys who've played with Atlanta United too. You've also seen guys from that club go to clubs. Carolina Core has picked up a couple of those guys. So a lot of talent coming out of that group as well. It's exciting to see more. It used to be one, maybe two out of the amateurs that would make a run trying to get to the Open Cup. Now you've got, I think you had 4 or 5 who entered this year. So it's going to be exciting to see if they can get there. Yeah,
exactly. I can't wait myself. This is going to be very exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun, and they'll be in the third round. And as you said, big Georgia matchup between Potros and Atletico Buford. And then Kalanji Pro Profile will be hosting Mint Hill FC out of North Carolina in the third round on November the 2nd, which is a Sunday. So it's almost here. It's almost here, Jay.
Yeah, I think the Potros game, I think Potros is hosting that one against Atletico Buford. I'll probably be there for that one.
How far is it away from Atlanta, Potros?
Not far. They're in Marietta. They typically play at Marietta High School. So you're talking 30 minutes.
That's good.
Well, traffic can mean an hour 15, depending, but usually it's about 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. But as always, Jay, I appreciate your time. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Obviously, hope to talk to you, of course, off the air. We can shoot the breeze and talk soccer stories all night long. You and me, and bring Mike and hopefully Doug Roberson as well.
Yep.
We can all have a lot of laughs.
Give me a few weeks because I think it's going to be hectic around here, and then we'll get caught up for sure here soon because I think we're going to have a lot of things to get caught up on when it comes to soccer in Atlanta over the next few months.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you again, and keep going with 92.9 FM again. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, go to his Soccer Down Here group as well. They do an amazing job covering the sport in the city and the state. City of Atlanta, state of Georgia. They do a fantastic job. Jason, as always, I appreciate your time, and have a good night, my friend. Take care.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon. Jason Longshore, 92.9 FM, The Game in Atlanta, Georgia, the radio analyst of Atlanta United, joining me tonight. And now we're going to review the second round of the amateur qualifying of the 2026 Open Cup. And here are those scores right now. A lot of big scores on the weekend. Let's go with the Saturday scores. And boy, oh boy, once again, this was on Friday. Western Mass Pioneers falls to Atletico Boston by 1-4. And then on Saturday, which was the 11th, so Friday was the 10th, Saturday the 11th, Verengung Erzgebirge defeating Colonial FC 2-1. We have CD Fiolenza shutting out Project Football 5-0. Capital City Islanders in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, defeating Moco 1776 out of Maryland, 5-2. FC Monmouth falls to the Bulldogs FC in New Jersey, 1-3. SC Vistula Garfield, they defeat Ironbound SCP, another New Jersey matchup, 2-1. MSI Pro of Maryland defeating Arlington SA Pro in Virginia, 1-0. Christos FC, they're back on the trail once again, defeating Baltimore City FC 5-2. And that's in the East. We have in the Central, Woodland Football Club out of Kansas losing to Buffs St. Louis, 1-3. And United SC of Illinois falls to Edgewater Castle, also of Illinois, by 1-2. In the South region, Mint Hill SC of North Carolina defeats South Carolina United Heat, the Carolina Derby, 3-2. O'Shea's FC of Florida defeating FC Florida 2-1. Parkland Travel Soccer Club clean sheeted at home by Florida Football Club 0-3. AC New Stars defeating SVD Beaumont, Texas, 3-0. Briar United FC of North Carolina defeating Greenville United FC of North Carolina 2-1. Bold City FC 1, Stetson FA 0 in Florida. Fort Myers FC falls to Badgers FC by 0-1. The former NPSL sides, Tulsa Athletic of Oklahoma, now with the League for Clubs, loses at home to now of USL League 2, Denton Diablos out of Texas, 4-5. Tulsa Athletic falls to Denton Diablos, 4-5. Deportivo Lake Mary falls to Emerald FC Orlando, 0-1. How about FC Kanks, Kanks of Florida, destroying Harbor City, Florida, 9-3. Can you believe that? 9-3. Strikers DFW out of Texas falls to Dallas Atletico, 1-3. And then on Saturday as well, Napa Valley 1839 FC falls to FC Folsom by 1-2 in California. Next Level Soccer defeating Olympians FC 3-1. Valley 559 FC defeating Real San Jose by a final of 2-1. Now we'll move on to the Sunday matches that happened. Whoops, I screwed that up. So that is the Western. Whoops, I screwed that up, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize about that. I had the wrong thing up originally. So there it is. Once again, Western Mass Pioneers 1, Atletico Boston 4. There it is. Verengung Erzgebirge 2, Colonial FC 1. CD Fiolenza defeating Project Football 5-0. Capital City Islanders defeating Mocha 1776 5-2. FC Monmouth falling to Bulldogs FC 1-3. C Vistula Garfield defeating Ironbound SCP 2-1. MSI Pro defeating Arlington SA 1-0. Woodland Football Club losing to Buffs St. Louis 1-3. United SC falling to Edgewater Castle 2-2. Mint Hill defeating South Carolina United Heat 3-2. O'Shea's FC defeating FC Florida 2-1. Parkland Travel falls to Florida Football Club 0-3. SC New Stars defeating SVD Beaumont 3-0. Briar United AC defeating Greenville United 2-1. Bold City SC defeating Stetson FA 1-0. Fort Myers FC falling to Badgers FC 0-1. Tulsa Athletic falling to Denton Diablos in extra time 4-5. Deportivo Lake Mary falls to Emeralds FC Orlando 0-1. FC Kanks again, Kanks defeating Harbor City FC 9-3. Strikers Z DFW falls to Dallas Atletico by 1-3. Napa Valley 1839 FC falls to FC Folsom by a goal to 2. Go. Steel City FC out of Pennsylvania defeats FCY New York 3 goals to 2. Dorados FC out of Virginia falls to Virginia Dream FC by a goal to 2. FC Lone Star GPSC of New Hampshire defeats FC Omens of Massachusetts 2 goals to 1. Gorilla FC out of Washington, D.C. defeats the DMV Elite out of Maryland. It was a 1-1 draw through regulation extra time, defeating DMV Elite 4 goals to 2 on the penalty kick shootout. Oakland United FC in South Jersey defeating Scots American Athletic Club out of Kearney, New Jersey, 2 goals to 0. Metropolitan Oval Academy wins by forfeit due to Central Park Rangers forfeiting their match. Zum Schneider FC 09 defeating Osners FC in extra time. It was 3-3 through regulation. 4 more goals by Zum Schneider. 7-3 the final. Doxa SC falling to Lansdowne Yonkers by a goal to 2. New York Greek Americans falling to the New York Renegades by a final of 2 goals to 3. And Grove United out of Virginia defeating Alexandria Reds by a final of 4 goals to 2. On Sunday in the Central region, Cleveland SC falling to Akron City FC 0-2. Boulder United out of Colorado falls to Harpo's FC 0-3. Croatia Cleveland of Ohio defeating Detroit Metro FC of Michigan 5-2. Southern Indiana FC defeating Bootleggers out of Kentucky 4 goals to 1. Omaha Street and FC out of Nebraska advances due to forfeit by Iowa Demon Hawks of Iowa. Peak 11 falls at home to Azteca FC by a goal to 2. And Chicago House, again, Peter Wilt's side, defeating Wisloka 2-0 at home. And now in the South, Majestic SC out of Georgia falling to Atletico Buford 0-2. Miami Soccer Academy 3, River Miami FC 0. Pinellas County United Pelicans falls to CFL America Spurs FC 1-3. Miami United defeating Boca Juniors Miami 3-0. Kalanji Pro Profile defeating Limeno, Georgia 4-2. North Georgia United falls to Potros by 0-2. Hurricane FC defeating, or should I say destroyed, by the Palm Beach Flames 1-6. Tennessee United Soccer Club defeating Eagles Sports South Haven 2 goals to 0. 210 FC of Texas defeating Master Joga of Texas 6-2. And in extra time, Atletico Miami International falling to Red Force in extra time 3 goals to 4. And then, of course, on the Sunday games in the West, FC Balboa falling to San Diego International goal to 7. The Olympic Club defeating Albion SC Silicon Valley 1-0. City FC Carlsbad shutting out the Rebels SC 9-0 on a destruction. It would be Sharktopus 3, Belleville Athletic 4 in extra time. But there is now a replay that will happen in this match due to the referee being a former player of Belleville Athletic FC's 2 team. A former player, now a referee, officiated the match between Sharktopus FC and Belleville Athletic FC. So there will be a replay of the match. When that will happen, we'll find out when we get news of the replay. The match went into the penalty kick shootout. It was 3-3 through regulation, 4 and extra time, 4-3 as Irvine FC defeats Apple Valley Storm in the penalty kick shootout 4-3. Ariana FC defeating Bay Area United 2-1. And finally, San Ramon FC destroys Dublin Celtic FC 6-2. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a replay between Sharktopus FC and Belleville Athletic FC due to the referee having ties with the club of Belleville United's 2 team. And so we will find out when that match on the date will be replayed. But I want to thank my guests tonight, Jason Longshore of 92.9 FM The Game, the radio analyst of Atlanta United. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you for joining me once again tonight. Join me next week for another Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show as we will recap the MLS Cup playoffs. But once again, please enjoy yourselves tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Take care. So long. And bye-bye for now. Have a good night, everybody.